In the world of Aethel, the seasons were a work of art. From a high, lonely tower, the painter of seasons would sweep a brush across a vast, circular canvas, and the world below would obey. A stroke of brilliant white, and snow would blanket the hills. A dab of vibrant green, and buds would burst from the trees. But the masterpiece was fading. Master Corvus, the current painter, was old. His hands trembled, and his memory for colors was more potent than the pigments themselves. Winter had become a dreary, slushy gray. Summer was a bleached, hazy yellow that hung in the air with no joy. "No, no," he would mutter, staring at his palette. "The crimson for the autumn leaves lacks warmth. The blue of the winter sky feels thin." His young apprentice, Elio, would stand by quietly, arranging the pots of magical pigment. Elio had a secret that he believed would forever disqualify him from being a painter. He was colorblind. To him, the pots of crimson and forest green were indistinguishable shades of gray. But while his eyes were blind to color, his other senses were not. When he stood near the pot of summer yellow, he could feel a buzzing energy on his skin, like 1,000 bees humming a joyful tune. When he handled the winter blue, a sharp, clean cold would bite at his fingertips. He didn't see the seasons, he felt them. One morning, the problem became a crisis. A creeping, lifeless gray had begun to bleed into the pigments themselves. It was the Monochrome Blight, a phenomenon born of the world's growing apathy. Because the seasons had grown weak and forgettable, the world was in turn forgetting them. The blight was draining the magic from the colors, leaving them as nothing more than gray dust. Master Corvus stared at the dead palette, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "It is over," he whispered. "The magic is gone." As he spoke, a flicker of light zipped through the bleak studio. It was Prisma, a tiny hummingbird-like creature made of pure, shifting light, a being drawn only to the truest essence of color. It ignored the dusty pots on the palette and hovered directly in front of Elio's chest, shimmering with a faint, hopeful glow. Elio knew what it meant. The pigments in the tower were echoes, copies of the true colors that existed at the heart of nature. Prisma was telling him they had to find the source. "Master, I can find them," Elio said, his voice quiet but steady. Corvus looked at him with sad eyes. "Child, you cannot even see the difference between a poppy and a leaf. How can you find a color?" "I will feel it," Elio replied. With Prisma as his guide, Elio set off. The world outside was a dull, gray canvas. The blight was spreading fast. Prisma pulsed with a cold, sharp light and darted north. It was leading him to blue. The journey grew colder. The air became thin and crisp, and the silence was broken only by the sharp crackle of ice under his boots. Prisma led him to the foot of a colossal glacier. To Elio's eyes, it was a mountain of gray and white, but he could feel its power. He closed his eyes and listened, not with his ears, but with his entire body. He felt the immense, slow pressure of the ice, the memory of 1,000 winters stored within its core. He followed the feeling to a deep crevice where the ice hummed with a cold so pure and intense it felt like a musical note. There, protected from the blight, was a pool of liquid that shivered with ancient cold. This was true blue. Elio carefully collected a flask of it, the cold seeping into his bones. Next, Prisma glowed with a deep, pulsing warmth and flew south toward the volcanic mountains. The air grew thick and warm. The ground beneath Elio's feet began to thrum with a powerful, rhythmic beat, like a sleeping giant's heart. He didn't see the red-hot rivers of lava as a color, but he felt their ferocious heat. Prisma guided him deep into a cave, not toward the dangerous lava, but to a large, smooth rock that radiated a powerful, life-giving warmth. It was the heart of the volcano, where the Earth's creative energy was born. Growing from a crack in the rock was a single, perfect crystal that glowed with a heat that felt like courage and passion. This was true red. For the final primary color, Prisma zipped and buzzed with an almost ticklish energy, leading him to a vast, sun-drenched meadow. But the blight had touched this place too, and the sunflowers drooped, their faces turned to the hazy gray sky. Elio knew the color wasn't in the petals. He closed his eyes and felt the faint memory of the sun on his skin. He felt the joyful, buzzing energy of the bees that once worked there. He reached out and touched the drooping head of the largest sunflower, pouring his own hope and energy into it. Slowly, as if answering his call, the sunflower lifted its head. A single perfect drop of golden, liquid sunlight welled up from its center, feeling like laughter and pure joy. This was true yellow. Elio returned to the tower with the 3 flasks of pure, living color. The world outside the window was now almost entirely gray. Master Corvus sat slumped in his chair, defeated. "I have them," Elio said, placing the flasks on the cable. They glowed with an inner light. Corvus looked at them, then at Elio. "I don't understand. How will you mix them? How will you know the right amounts to paint the spring green or the autumn orange?" Elio picked up the painter's brush for the first time. "I will feel it." He poured a pool of the buzzing yellow and the shivering blue onto the palette. He didn't see green. Instead, as he mixed them, he closed his eyes and felt a new sensation entirely, the feeling of a tiny, brave sprout pushing its way through cold, damp earth. He felt the promise of new life. Dipping the brush into this feeling, he turned to the canvas. He swept the brush in a long, arching stroke that felt like a cool, cleansing breeze. He dabbed the canvas with a touch that felt like the first warm ray of sun after a long winter. He painted not with colors, but with feelings. The chill of morning dew, the energy of a waking seed, the scent of fresh rain on soil. As he painted, a miracle happened outside the tower window. A wave of vibrant life washed over the gray landscape. The slush on the ground melted away, revealing lush green grass. Buds erupted on the skeletal branches of the trees, and the air filled with the scent of blossoms. He had painted spring, not as it looked, but as it felt. Master Corvus stood up, his eyes wide. He slowly reached out and touched the flask of true blue. He flinched, not from pain, but from the sudden sharp feeling of a perfect winter morning, a sensation he hadn't truly felt in decades. A tear rolled down his cheek. He handed the brush back to Elio, his hand steady for the first time in years. "The world doesn't just need to see the seasons, my boy," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It needs to feel them. Paint on." And Elio did. He painted the buzzing, joyful heat of summer, the sleepy, contented warmth of autumn, and the crisp, peaceful silence of winter. With every stroke, the monochrome blight retreated, defeated by a world that was learning to feel again. Elio, the boy who couldn't see color, became the greatest painter of seasons Aethel had ever known, teaching everyone that the true beauty of the world is not just in how it looks, but in how it makes you feel.